What really happened while I was alone was that I started talking to the ceiling, pretending it was listening like you used to. I realized that hospitals don't just treat the body, they expose the emptiness you've been hiding for years. I counted every drop in the IV like it was another second, without your love to keep me sane. What really happened was that I learned how quiet pain can be when there's no one left to hear it. I remember thinking, if I don't make it through the night, will your heart even skip a beat? That room was too bright for my sadness, yet somehow the shadows inside me grew darker. What really happened was that I realized how deeply I depended on you to feel alive. I stopped blaming the painkillers for my numbness. It was you who made me feel nothing. The doctors said I was stable, but they didn't know my heart was still collapsing in silence. What really happened is that I saw your ghost in every reflection, watching but never touching. Every time I heard footsteps, I prayed they'd be yours, but hope was cruel. It always lied. I was surrounded by strangers who cared more about my health than the one I once loved. What really happened was that I became invisible to the person I would have died for. I kept wondering if your world even paused for a moment when mine fell apart. My body ached for rest, but my soul refused to sleep without your name being whispered once more. What really happened was that I finally understood what emotional abandonment feels like. I looked at the heart monitor and wondered, why is my heart still fighting for someone who gave up on me? The night nurse asked if I was okay. I smiled, but my silence answered honestly. What really happened was that I fell in love with the stillness because it stopped reminding me of you. I thought about all our promises, realizing they were just words, spoken loudly, meant weakly. What really happened while I was alone was that I stopped believing love could save me. I whispered goodbye to the version of me who still waited for your return. I realized that healing sometimes means breaking in a way no one can see. What really happened was that I found strength in surrendering to my solitude. My tears dried, but the emptiness remained. Like a shadow that refused to leave, I began to talk to myself, not out of madness, but out of desperate need for company. What really happened was that I learned peace can be born in the middle of heartbreak. The beeping machines became lullabies for the lonely, and I was their favorite listener. I used to fear being alone, but that night I realized it's better than being unloved. What really happened was that I stopped asking why you left and started asking why I waited. I looked at my hands and wondered how many times they reached for someone who never reached back. I found myself praying, not for life, but for understanding. why love hurts the ones who love most. What really happened was that I forgave you in silence, even if you'll never know. I realized that pain doesn't just break you, it reshapes you into something wiser. The night sky outside my window looked like it was mourning with me. What really happened was that I learned how to breathe without needing your voice as oxygen. I no longer wanted you to come back. I just wanted the pain to mean something. I felt my body healing and my heart slowly detaching from the fantasy I once called love. What really happened was that I understood that love without presence is just memory. The hospital lights flickered, like they were reminding me that everything fades. Eventually, even you. I realized my healing wasn't about getting better. It was about learning to exist without your validation. What really happened was that I became my own reason to keep fighting. I stopped checking my phone that night. I finally accepted you weren't going to call. My body was weak, but my spirit grew fierce in the absence of your comfort. What really happened was that I met my truest self, the one who doesn't beg to be loved. The loneliness that once terrified me became the peace I now protect. I stopped crying not because it didn't hurt, but because the tears no longer deserved you. What really happened was that I grew tired of waiting for someone who never shows up when it matters. I learned that real love doesn't watch you suffer from a distance. The pain didn't break me. It revealed who truly cares and who only pretends to. What really happened was that I became my own angel in a room full of ghosts. I started to believe that maybe this pain was divine intervention, forcing me to release what I clung to. I realized the difference between being saved and saving yourself. What really happened was that I let go of the illusion that you'd ever understand my silence. My soul stopped waiting for closure. It built peace from unanswered questions. I finally saw that healing isn't loud. It's the quiet decision to move on. What really happened while I was alone in that hospital bed was silence, so loud it screamed your name through every heartbeat I had left. I realized that pain doesn't always come from the wound. It comes from the absence of the person you wish would walk through that door. Every beep from the monitor reminded me that my body was fighting, but my heart had already surrendered to memories of you. What really happened that night was that I begged the universe for one more chance to feel your hand in mine. The fourth dripped medicine into my veins, but what I truly needed was your voice telling me I was going to be okay. I never felt more fragile than when I realized you weren't coming, not even to check if I was still breathing. Alone in that hospital bed, I learned that love doesn't heal everything, but it hurts more when it's gone. What really happened was that I closed my eyes, hoping every dream would begin and end with you standing by my side. I kept staring at the door, expecting it to open, but all I got was silence and the sound of my own broken hope. What really happened wasn't just physical pain, it was emotional surgery, cutting away every illusion that you still cared. The doctors healed my body, but no one knew how to treat the part of me that missed you uncontrollably. In that sterile room, surrounded by machines, I realized how empty healing feels without love watching over you. Every moment alone made me realize that you were my medicine, and without you, recovery was just another kind of pain. What really happened while I was lying there was that I understood the meaning of loneliness in its purest form. I didn't need morphine. I needed your presence to numb the ache that medicine couldn't touch. The walls witnessed my tears, the bed held my weakness, and the ceiling became my only listener. What really happened in that hospital was that my soul whispered your name like a prayer that never got answered. I was surrounded by people, yet I've never felt so alone, because none of them were you. The nurses came and went, but my heart stayed frozen, waiting for the only face it wanted to see. I kept pretending I was strong, but the truth is, I was breaking inside every minute you didn't show up. What really happened is that I stopped fearing death and started fearing life without you. My body was weak, but my mind was haunted by the way you used to care. Before you didn't, I realized that healing isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's the quiet acceptance that they're never coming back. Every night, I stared at the empty chair beside my bed, wishing it would be filled by the one who left. The hardest part wasn't the pain. It was knowing that even in my weakest moment, you chose silence. What really happened while I was alone there was that I made peace with your absence, but it still hurt like hell. The sound of my heartbeat was proof that I was alive, but I couldn't feel it without you near. What really happened is that I realized love can't visit hospitals. It dies somewhere between the goodbye and the forgotten texts. Every scar I have now carries a story of survival, but the deepest wound is still emotional. The room was cold, but not as cold as the space where your love used to live inside me. I learned that being alive doesn't mean you're living, especially when your heart still belongs to someone who left. What really happened was that I saw my reflection in the hospital window, and for the first time, I didn't recognize myself. I thought painkillers could numb everything, but they can't erase the sound of your name inside my mind. I realized that sometimes healing means accepting that no one is coming to save you, not even the one you loved most. What really happened is that I fell in love with silence because it was the only thing that stayed. That hospital bed became a battlefield between my body trying to live and my heart trying to forget. I kept wondering, if you knew how close I was to breaking, would you have cared enough to come? What really happened was that I stopped waiting for you and started waiting for peace. I was surrounded by white walls and machines, but all I could think about was the color of your eyes. My soul felt disconnected, floating between hope and despair, wondering why love never showed up when it mattered most. What really happened was that I realized love isn't proven by words. It's proven by who shows up when you can't stand. I whispered your name into the night, hoping the walls would echo it back, just to feel less alone. That room became my mirror, reflecting every regret, every what if, every moment I gave too much of myself. What really happened was that I saw how fragile we all are when love abandons us in our darkest hour. I used to think you'd always care, but that hospital bed taught me that love has limits, especially yours. Every tear I shed there carried a memory, and each one fell like a goodbye I never got to say.